Donald Trump just lit the match, and the flames are spreading fast across North America's economy. But if Trump thought Canada would back down, he miscalculated badly. Within hours, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney responded not with words but with action. A perfectly mirrored 50% retaliatory tariff on $22 billion worth of U.S. goods. Yes, you heard that right. $22 billion. This isn't a disagreement. This is war, an all-out economic face-off that has already begun hitting American wallets, and fast. Picture this: electric vehicle motors, Detroit-made pickup frames, the aluminum shells used in beer cans and soda. All of it is surging in price overnight. The numbers are staggering. Steel prices jumped so quickly that automakers didn't even have time to adjust their models. Aluminum used in beverage cans crossed the $3,500 per ton threshold, the highest it's been in years. And EV component prices? Up 12% in 3 days. And this isn't some theoretical economic model. This is real money hitting real businesses and real consumers. American shoppers, already stretched thin by inflation, are now being asked to pay even more. And for what? Political theatrics? A tariff tantrum? But here's the twist no one saw coming. Instead of simply retaliating with mirrored tariffs, Canada is playing chess while Washington is playing checkers. Carney didn't just slap on a tax, he opened up a war chest. A $1.5 billion emergency stimulus was immediately greenlit to protect Canadian steel and aluminum jobs, especially in key provinces like Quebec. That wasn't all. He deployed an even sharper tool, what analysts are now calling a climate weapon. Under new emergency rules, every ton of imported steel into Canada must come with a full digital carbon passport, detailing everything from its furnace of origin to the emissions produced per ton. The message: if your steel is dirty, it's not welcome. Suddenly, U.S. coke-fired steel, which runs on coal, is at a massive disadvantage. The kicker? Canadian steel is mostly hydro-powered, clean, and cheaper to decarbonize. In ESG terms, that's a market goldmine. And just like that, Trump's tariffs are backfiring, not only inflaming trade tensions, but exposing the weakness of America's own green manufacturing. Now, let's talk numbers. 90% of steel used by U.S. automakers comes from Canada. Nearly half of the aluminum used in American packaging? Canadian. So when Ottawa dropped its retaliation hammer, $22 billion in U.S. exports got hit. Within 24 hours, the cold-rolled steel index, a key input for trucks and EVs, skyrocketed by $60 per ton, hitting $1,060, the highest since 2022. Meanwhile, the Midwest aluminum premium surged 54%, reaching its highest point in 8 months. Beer companies? Panicking. Ball Corporation, Crown Holdings, even Modelo sounded the alarm. Their imported aluminum cans now face an extra 25% fee, and some are considering scaling back summer promotions. Grocery stores could soon reflect those changes, with consumers paying the price. But perhaps no one is being hit harder than Detroit. Ford, already under pressure from a massive labor deal, adding $850 in labor costs per vehicle, now faces an additional $1,000+ in material tariffs. Multiply that across thousands of trucks, and you've got a crisis. J.D. Power warns that unless automakers eat these costs, car prices will explode. But if they do eat the costs, they're sacrificing profit. That's not a pinch, that's a slow bleed. The Anderson Economic Group estimates that U.S. consumers could pay $30 billion more in the first year alone, just from these tariffs. In the truck market, $8,000 extra per pickup. And the irony? Ottawa's price increase for Canadian raw materials is only $850, and most of that cost stays inside Canada. Back across the border, the damage keeps mounting. Samsung SDI, a supplier for Tesla, Rivian, and GM Ultium, is now reporting higher costs for aluminum-coated battery components. Their factories in Indiana and Michigan are already bleeding margin. Some insiders say second quarter profits might be razor thin, if they survive at all. And what about Washington's own $7,500 EV tax credit? At this pace, material inflation could completely erase that incentive, turning it into a reverse tax. That's right. Washington's own green subsidies could get devoured by Washington's own tariffs. So while Trump claims to be protecting American industry, the truth is, he may be strangling it. And while the economic pain spreads across auto plants, canning factories, and battery lines, Carney isn't slowing down. He's doubling down. Just 3 weeks into the standoff, the Canadian government unveiled a $4.8 billion green steel fund, a seismic investment into decarbonizing the nation's metallurgy sector. This isn't just about tariffs anymore. It's about reshaping the battlefield. At the heart of the plan are two steel giants, ArcelorMittal Dofasco in Hamilton and Algoma Steel in Sault Ste. Marie. Combined, they've already secured over $2.2 billion in public funds to replace their blast furnaces with electric arc systems. That move alone will cut over 3 million tons of CO2 annually. Even more ambitious, Dofasco will fully abandon the oxygen converter method, shifting instead to hydrogen-fired direct reduction, the holy grail of green steel. Carney's strategy is clear. While Trump slaps tariffs, Canada is becoming the continent's clean steel hub, and they want every ton to carry a carbon passport detailing emissions or origin and energy source. It's smart, it's aggressive, and it positions Canada as the only reliable supplier of green steel and aluminum, just as EV makers face mounting global pressure to clean up their supply chains. But Carney didn't stop at green tech. He went straight for the legal jugular. On March 13th, Canada filed a formal case at the World Trade Organization, DS-635, accusing the U.S. of breaking global trade rules with its 50% tariff surge. Sure, the WTO's appellate body has been stalled by Washington since 2019. But this case isn't about the ruling. It's about global pressure. Because quietly, Canada shared its case files with Japan and South Korea, two U.S. allies also hit by Trump's tariffs. If they follow Canada's lead and file simultaneous WTO cases, the fallout could detonate right at the heart of Trump's America First narrative. Carney is building not just a tariff wall, but a multilateral siege, and he's not done yet. On July 21st, every Canadian federal infrastructure contract will require domestic steel and aluminum. On top of that, new import quotas will block Chinese steel from slipping into Canada through the U.S. back door. That leaves U.S. firms, like Ford, GM, Tesla, with a brutal choice. Keep paying 50% tariff premiums on U.S.-made parts, or pivot to Canada's low-carbon, high-efficiency green mills. In Carney's own words, we will not back down. We will level up the game. And he has. Symmetric tariffs are now in place. Green stimulus is reshaping the industry. Legal pressure is brewing at the WTO. And even before the final phase kicks in, Canada has already flipped the board. The result? Beer cans, EVs, and pickup trucks are all getting pricier in the U.S. Back in Detroit, automakers are crunching cost models in panic mode. And in Washington, the Biden administration is stuck in a corner. Either escalate this trade war into version 2.0 or back down and watch Canada become the new cornerstone of North America's green economy. All this in the middle of an election year. So what happens next? Well, let's talk strategy. Because Carney's three-pronged assault isn't just reactionary, it's visionary. Tariff symmetry. Pain is matched, dollar for dollar, 50% for 50%. Green Steel Fund. The industry gets cleaner, faster, and more competitive. WTO pressure. International legal support chips away at U.S. trade legitimacy. Meanwhile, Trump's side, stuck defending higher prices for beer cans, lost margins in EV plants, and inflationary blowback right as voters head to the polls. Carney has turned crisis into leverage, and it's working. Now, the battle lines are clear, but the clock is ticking. Industry analysts are warning that if no resolution comes before August, the ripple effects will spill into every corner of the supply chain. Already, whispers are turning into public pressure. One internal memo from a major U.S. beverage consortium reads, "With aluminum, can premiums up 58%, we'll have to cancel all summer promotions and maybe lay off seasonal workers." And it's not just beer companies. The auto sector is bleeding silently. J.D. Power estimates that the average North American automaker is now losing $1,300 per unit sold just to maintain market share. Even Tesla, known for its vertical integration, is bracing for Q3 earnings to miss targets by nearly 9%, all thanks to skyrocketing input costs. One executive reportedly said off record, "We can't electrify the future if our supply chain dies from tariffs." So where does it go from here? Well, behind closed doors, Washington is beginning to recalculate. The Commerce Department has floated the idea of a temporary exemption window for EV-related materials, a face-saving measure to keep production lines moving without admitting defeat. But Carney's team is ahead of that curve. They've already secured long-term EV contracts with Korean and European manufacturers who are eager to label their vehicles with clean steel credentials for the EU's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism launching in 2026. If the U.S. keeps tariffs in place, Canadian exports may pivot away from Detroit entirely and into Frankfurt, Seoul, and Tokyo. That's not just a trade loss, that's a geopolitical fumble. And with China pushing hard on rare earth dominance, Washington can't afford to lose a green supply partner like Canada. Yet Trump's campaign rhetoric is doubling down. In a rally last week, he declared, "We will protect American steel with every ounce of strength. No globalist deal will stop us." That soundbite is red meat for the base, but it's acid in the boardrooms of Ford, GM, and Stellantis. They're stuck. Either side with the administration and swallow red ink or break rank and lobby for de-escalation. One automaker exec put it bluntly in a leaked Zoom. "If this goes to 70% tariffs, we either cut production, raise prices, or exit the market." And that's where we are now. A standoff. 2 leaders, 1 continent, billions on the line. Mark Carney's message is simple. Adapt to green, or get out of the way. Trump's answer: protect American manufacturing at all costs. But behind the slogans and policy jabs is a stark economic truth. The longer this goes on, the more consumers pay. By year's end, Americans could see $4 increases on 12 packs of beer, $7,000 price jumps on EV pickups, delays in infrastructure projects as material contracts stall. And for what? A tariff war with a climate-conscious neighbor offering cleaner, cheaper metals? This isn't just politics anymore. It's about how we build, how we consume, and who leads the next industrial era. In this poker game, Carney's playing offense, using sustainability, supply chain leverage, and global alliances. Trump? He's holding on to an old playbook, but the board has changed. Because this time, green steel isn't just cleaner, it's a weapon. So we ask you, will the U.S. adapt to the new rules of the game? Or will consumers pay the price while Canada forges ahead? Let us know in the comments what you think about this green trade war, and hit subscribe so you never miss the next move on the geopolitical chessboard. Because this isn't over. In fact, it's only just begun.